Today's video is all about Swarm Markets, the golden standard for blockchain finance. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals such as the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, trying to figure out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunity. And the question is Swarm Markets an opportunity? Guys, today we're doing a deep dive. We're looking into some of the details regarding this project, and of course, trying to figure out whether we should include it into our portfolio. We're looking into some of the details, and we're hoping that the website and all the documentation provided by the team gives us all those fundamental details in order for us to get bullish. Of course, the retail perspective is very, very important, and the communication that is provided to us has to be spot on so that we get, pretty much fundamentally bullish. At this point where we are in this market, we need to get as much evidence as possible so that we can scale into projects that we believe in and that have good fundamentals and so on and so forth. Okay, guys, so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using the main website as our main platform, and then we're going to be looking at some of the documentation, white papers, and so on. We're going to be taking a look at some of the metrics and some of the profiles of the team members to kind of see what kind of alpha do they bring to the table. So let's begin. Right away, we see a decent landing page, and it kind of, speaks for itself. There's a lot just to be said on the landing page. Of course, the gold standard for blockchain-based finance. What does that mean? Trade real-world assets on-chain today. Guys, what I like is when a website literally on the first landing page, as you load it up, it tells you exactly what it is. And then 100% asset-backed compliant. Amazing. And then when we go to the right side of the page right here, you can see some examples of the type of, in this case, assets, real-world assets that they offer. And you can see stocks, which means, MicroStrategy and NVIDIA. And then they have Coinbase, of course. And then gold, obviously, commodities. And this is obviously something that a lot of us lately have been interested in, is seeing gold, with the rise of price and so on and so forth. And then, of course, accumulating on those dips in traditional stocks gives us the opportunity to buy a little bit of this and that within the space, within the traditional market. What's important here is to understand is what they're doing is bridging over Web3 or the crypto-based community with the traditional markets and allowing the crypto-based community to participate in the traditional markets through blockchain technology. And that's where I give it many thumbs up. Pretty good there, offering a value proposition that many of us would want to take full advantage of. So this is why it's so important that we take a look at this in more detail, of course. Now, I read some statement up here that was quite interesting. Let's see if I can get that real quick. The securities have not been and will not be registered under the U.S. Securities Act of, hold on one second, let me see if I can go back again, of 1933. Okay, so this is a statement that, kind of leaves me a little bit uncertain of what's going on here. What does that even mean? Because, again, we are talking about securities and we are talking about commodities, and if they're not registered, the reality is they are tokenized. And this is that they represent these tokens, and because they're 100% asset-backed compliant. Now I'm wondering if there's clarity here as to how this is going to end up playing out. So again, this is something that is not within my specialty. Understanding exactly what that means in relation to stocks and commodities. But I can tell you this: it being 100% backed and then tokenized is something that should provide a little bit of certainty or a degree of comfort within your portfolio, given that it's not like it's levered or anything like that. Okay, so just keep this in mind. This is so far a very speculative wild west community as far as crypto goes, and we're innovating new standards, we're innovating software solutions, engineering new technologies, and a lot of it is still in gray area for the most part. Total value locked in Swarm protocol We got a decent amount of capital hanging out there, about $5 million, okay, for its size. Just keep in mind, Swarm Markets is a very small project, okay? And with that being said, you have to measure everything with that standard. The fact is, you're talking about a small project, you're not talking about a large cap, okay? So everything that we talk about here, it has to have that kind of like framework that we're talking about a small startup type of project, okay? Web3, self-custody and protocol transparent, real-time asset verification, fully backed assets. I think that's a major thing. Redemption linked to markets. Okay, interesting stuff. Now we do have some logos. You guys know how critical I am about logos. We have to understand Chainlink. Chainlink at the end of the day is an oracle that provides, you know, data feed with regards to pricing data on various assets. So, you know, that's good to know that they have a relationship or integrating Chainlink's you know, feed. And we have Polygon for the tech stack because it is EVM. In this case, you know, Ethereum based projects have that, you know, scalability issue, and Polygon offers that speed and low cost transactions that we are looking for. So that's that. And then some other, you know, relatable, you know, partnerships or arrangements or agreements, you know, with Copper and Black Demon and we're going to talk about what those all are about in a second. Black Demon is quite interesting. So this is how the process kind of works. You can see regulatory compliance is right within this level, and then institutional grade partners right into this level. So off-chain and on-chain scenarios. And this is what I find very interesting, is because they kind of marry the both, the on-chain and the off-chain concept. And you can see how it kind of like just bounces right through. And then you get into a regulated trading scenario. So pretty good graphic kind of spelling out exactly what happens here. The golden standard, 100% as. So this is a bit repetitive, although it is one of the major statements that should be, you know, very clear. It is done very clear through repetition. 100% asset backed, integrated with financial markets, and 24/7 trading on DeFi. Of course, you know, it's DeFi. It's like a DEX, guys. At the end, there is decentralized aspects, decentralized exchange aspects of here. 24/7 trading, because of course you got to appeal to the crypto community, where they expect 24 hours, 7 days a week trading and that kind of thing. When you have tokenized assets, that's what you get, right? New collateral for a treasury management. Connect your wallet. The future of finance is here. Connect your wallet and experience the gold standard for blockchain based trading. Okay, interesting, because you can see that you also have various different cryptos, tokens, coins, and then you also have Tesla stocks and Apple and so on and so forth. So you're basically able to bring in all these different assets that we are looking for to trade on, whether it be traditional or crypto based, all under one roof. And for a lot of us, this is great, and it's especially in a decentralized fashion. Again, the gold standard: never take custody of your assets. Our battle-proven infrastructure offers fully transparent, robust trading. Tokenize your assets, build your own marketplace. This is interesting. Embed a custom marketplace in your ecosystem using Swarm white label platform. Tokenize your assets. So you can even tokenize your own assets with Swarm. Any asset can be tokenized and traded in a compliant environment, including real estate, carbon credits, private holdings, stocks and bonds. So you can see this highlighted area right here kind of brings you the additional value proposition as to allowing individuals to tokenize various assets and build their own marketplace. So it's also, you know, improving their ability to increase their let's say ecosystem in that case, because that's basically what's kind of happening. The more assets get built and more marketplaces get built, their ecosystem grows. So I like ecosystem growth. Anything that leads to ecosystem growth gets me bullish. And then all of a sudden you have some publications, Market Watch, and you know, the various others. Feel free to go check out that, Bloomberg. And this has a lot to do with their communications and marketing, which we'll talk about also as we continue this deep dive. Frequently asked questions, guys, go check it out, because there's lots of questions all the time, and what markets, what these are all about. How does the Swarm market make money? Swarm. So you can go check that out. Pretty interesting stuff. And as usual, the footer provides a lot of little details in a very organized way. We got Telegram, obviously Twitter, a Medium, and a LinkedIn fully doxed team, guys, which we're going to talk about in a second, which is great because not many projects, especially coming into DeFi and DEX narrative, you know, what happens is a lot of the times they don't become fully transparent. So I like this. I like fully transparent platforms, especially they're trying to go from a legitimate perspective. And obviously when you're talking about legitimate, it all obviously includes a level of KYC, know your customer. So this is something that we have to anticipate as well here for Swarm markets. Okay, so let's continue, guys. That's the main page. Okay, and we can see they have a products tab and so on, and I went through all of these and kind of picked out what was the important stuff to try to make this video somewhat reasonable in length. Okay, so just keep that in mind, and let's get right into the documentation, because this does give a great summary as to what we're talking about here today. We have the introduction, Swarm, the hybrid organization of the era of tokenization. This is, it is real world assets, but you have to understand that it's even broader than that. It's not just real world assets, because the focus on real world assets is that you can tokenize stocks and commodities that are out here in the real world. The reality is it still has the crypto, it still's got that, and it still has the ability to allow people to tokenize other assets. And this is why, an encompassing narrative is this real world asset scenario. So I kind of appreciate what's going on here, right? So Web3 native, regulated, institutional ready, and API smart contract solution. Okay, so interesting stuff. I'm not going to get into too much detail because we kind of introduced it already pretty good. It basically aims to integrate TradFi and DeFi so that everything becomes Fi. This is the reality. Okay, so let's move on. What else do we have here? Getting started, market participants, what's going on here, developers and so on, traders, liquidity providers. These are the type of individuals that are going to be looking to participate within their ecosystem. Okay, and we'll kind of keep on going. Let's see what what is Swarm for. The platform opens up opportunities for retail investors and institutional market participants such as banks, hedge funds, brokers. So that also provides institutional possibilities here. And then obviously because of that, real big money can start to flow in, and of course that's obviously what we're looking for. What makes Swarm different? There are the other projects out there doing a very similar thing, but they can integrate blockchain with financial markets because we are designed around compliance. So when you think about the word compliance, just keep in mind that compliance is going to come with all those bells and whistles that regulatory compliances require, and of course a lot of that is KYC, know your customer, and anti-money laundering standards. Okay, this is so important to understand, because a lot of us, don't really want to keep our privacy. We want that KYC intact, and of course we want at the same time we want the community to stay safe, but at the same time we want a lot of us want that privacy aspect of things and not having to give up your KYC, your ID. So this is where it's a very fine line as well, gray area, depending on how you look at it and what stance you take. How does Swarm money make money? Obviously revenue in various ways, redemption fees for real world assets. I don't accept to buy tokenized securities on Swarm. Basically users will need to purchase security tokens using USDC on Polygon. That's the reality, is that we still require stable coins, and their stable coin of choice is USDC, it seems. So that's also very important to understand. A lot of USDC countries are now very compliant with the USDC, where we know especially parts of Europe in general, USDT has been, frowned upon and delisted and not being used as much. So something to understand there. And there are limitations using Swarm. You can see that there are limitations based on geographics. So please look into this before you get in totally, all in on this. You got to know your limitations. This is a fully compliant project. There's no ambiguity with regards to rules and compliance. And it's very important to become well aware and informed. Okay, so that's that. Polygon, again, it's about tech stack, guys. Layer 2, if you know what that is, I would highly recommend that you do a bit of research regarding what is Polygon, and they do a nice introduction, and what is an L2, a nice little introduction. It's just to help the Ethereum scaling, okay? And this is what they chose, which is the Polygon tech stack, which is good. Cheap fees, fast transactions, and that's all we could ask for. Okay, so let's jump right into the token. As per usual, I just want to remind you guys, these deep dives focus primarily on the SMT Swarm Markets token, right? It's not like I'm looking into the tech heavily or into other aspects heavily. And what I'm concerned about is why I can't click SMT, the actual, I can't, this tab is not working, or something's happening there. Okay, let's kind of go up again, one more level, and then I click SMT. and nothing happens, guys. What happened was working properly a bit ago, or a couple days ago, and I have been doing the research, so we'll definitely go check up on that again in a second. Getting started. Yeah, that's kind of weird, guys. What's going on with that tab? And that tab is basically a URL that should be working. So we're criticizing the website at the current moment, because how are we supposed to do research if we can't get access to one of the most important tabs that exist out here? Okay, guys, so I'm curious as to what's happening. And hopefully by the end of this deep dive I can get access to it again. Let's just quickly keep on going down. Core concepts, passport, onboarding. Okay, again, you're gonna have to show some sort of ID linking your wallets, and your wallets having some sort of identity. And one thing that I found interesting is this. So this is a business account, a wallet, different wallets. Okay, this DOTC, basically decentralized over-the-counter trading. This is part of their ecosystem, and I found it to be interesting. Swarm decentralized over-the-counter trading, which is also known as DOTC, enables institutions to carry out large transactions on the blockchain. So this is, again, like almost like a wholesale location in a decentralized ways for institutions to get active. High volume swap activity, okay, is increasingly significant. Large volume based on OTC for digitized assets. OTC basically not causing fluctuations in in charts and order books and all of that, which is somewhat healthy for stability in the markets, in the trading markets. Complex and often difficult to execute, and so on. How it works: it's a peer-to-peer network. Peer-to-peer contract will facilitate high value transaction, reduce slippage, and remove counterparty risk, as all users on Swarm are verified. Okay, so this is a really interesting thing, a product offering within their tech stack that will definitely drive or interest some institutional investors that want these features, and it's definitely a good value on to their ecosystem and potential ecosystem growth. Again, let's see if we can get back here. I can't get back to the token page for some reason. All right, let's keep on going, guys. This is, the deep dive, unedited, not cut whatsoever, and whatever happens. This is what we got. References, smart contracts. We got lots of happening there. If you want to look at their different contracts and what they got, full transparency, you can check on chain what's happening with all their different DOTC versions and so on. They got audited, which is great. Various audits on with different standards. Their gold contract, their action manager, and so on. So audits are good for contracts to make sure that they're bulletproof and there's no possibility of exploits and issues. And then providing APIs and so on. Again, that has to do with development and so on. So I'm not going to get into too much detail there. KYC, again, your customer, built-in optional regulatory compliance into open trading infrastructure. Just understand that this is part of the thing that they want to be fully compliant. For the most part, they're going to have to work KYC. Okay, so that's about it. Generally, guys, I wanted to spend more time here on the SMT, and I'm going to just quickly refresh this page live here with you guys to make sure that maybe we can get access to it this time around. There we go, SMT. Okay, so a bit of a refresher, and then we got access. So all good. So let's continue. We got, following the approval by SMT token holders, just understand that there was a little bit of a change given governance decided to do a few changes with regard to some of the tokenomics. Okay, so and the reward policy and burn proposals and things like this. So I'm happy to announce that this is there is a DAO and there's governance associated to this token, and we'll talk about this as we keep on going. SMT is a payment token based ERC20 protocol on the Ethereum blockchain. So what this means is the contract is an ERC20. It is EVM. The Ethereum virtual machine is basically Solidity. The code is written Solidity, and the contract is, because of that, EVM. Ethereum, it uses the Ethereum virtual machine to read the contract. Now, a lot of projects use EVM. In this case, a lot of projects are looking for L2 solutions to make their contracts faster and of course less fees. And this is why Polygon Polygon comes in, and then they obviously gain from the benefit of, you know, basically being able to tap into Ethereum liquidity, being an EVM compatible project, which is good. So SMT is part of a virtuous circle of fees, payments, and rewards flowing through the Swarm markets, which we're going to talk about right now. So this is the reward system. It consists of 3 categories. You could be a liquidity provider, Ethereum and Polygon and Base, of course, all EVM here. Then you have real world asset holders, again, and real world asset stakers. Okay, so these are the 3 main categories of which an individual can earn rewards, and this part of this reward structure is part of the value proposition of the token itself, of being a holder, and what you can get. Regular calculations will be made to determine the total value locked for each category. Apply any boosts with a weekly SMT allocation distributed proportionately to each category. Okay, so this is what happens. This is how the rewards are going to be distributed over time. Liquidity providers, so rewards, you get rewarded also for providing liquidity. Liquidity provider rewards are distributed to wallets that make viable offers with eligible assets within the open DOTC protocol. So there's boosts will be given to X boost viable offers, those offer that are live, public, and in range. Okay, so you can see a lot of little details here regarding the eligible assets that you could use to basically provide liquidity in and earn some rewards for that liquidity. Calculated value of each offer of the period, so the total value that is locked up, you will get rewarded over time proportionately. Okay, so this is also very common within the DeFi space, providing liquidity to the various pools, and then you get rewarded. Okay, so very straightforward, very crypto based, very, you know, common. Real world asset holder rewards, so wallets which hold a balance of any of the Swarm real world assets, okay, stocks, bonds, gold, ETFs, whatever it is, will be, sorry, not ETFs, NFTs will be counted by taking the value in US dollars of their real world assets holding and applying a 4x boost. Real world assets deposited as offers, the open DOTC protocol, are also eligible. So you can see that if you're a holder, you also earn rewards. So not only do you earn rewards if the asset goes up on its own, but you also earn rewards for participating and holding your assets. You know, that's quite interesting. It's almost incentivizing individuals to not to sell, and if they're not selling, they're basically, quote unquote, kind of locking up their assets for whatever given period of time based on the incentive of keeping them, you know, held and locked up within their, you know, obviously full custody and all of that. And the word locked is very loose. What I mean is basically hodled through. Okay, that's basically what I mean. Real world staking rewards, and again, this is more locked up ish. You know, usually when you stake up, there are, you know, some sort of conditions. Rewards are distributed per real world asset according to the market cap of each real world asset and relation to total platform TVL. So in this case, wallets which have staked SMT against a specific real world asset will be entitled to a share of its rewards. And again, staking, like typically said, this happens in a lot of DeFi. You get rewards for holding and staking various assets, and there's opportunity here. So you can see that over time, this is where you can potentially earn some rewards, and there are other incentives. Of course, governance. Swarm markets also distribute SMT to encourage active activities that benefit the platform as a whole. So again, and one of those activities are governance, participating in governance and making key decisions, maybe voting and providing, you know, some proposals and so on and so forth. So this is interesting, guys, because not only do they have a well-established value proposition, but they're trying to decentralize what they got going on here in various ways. And of course, one of the ways to decentralize it is through the organization itself, through governance. Okay, so decision making gets decentralized. Instead of having a CEO that calls all the shots, some of the shots are going to be called, or a degree of it is going to be through governance. Okay, using the SMT token. Okay, so interesting. Again, ticker ERC20, various wallets depending on what you're looking at. the supply, you can see initial supply 250 million SMTs, and the current is 160 million. Now I'm wondering if this is actually up to date. I got some numbers for you in a second as we keep on going, because you know a lot of these things sometimes fluctuate. Initial circulating supply, which is at about 10.3 million when it first was launched at TGE. This is what happened. This is what was out in circulation. And I would like to announce that the team allocation is zero, none. The team gets nothing. Interesting, very, very interesting, because this is as close as to a fair launch as you're going to get, particularly in this decentralized way, but at the same time, you know, still have some capital ready to be played with in order to get this thing off the ground. So I'm curious as to see how this is going to move forward. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. A lot of the key metrics here with regards to tokenomics is very ambiguous. And I did try to get on that Telegram to ask some questions, and guys, I couldn't get anything. There's no response. The community is very dry. Okay, there's no responses from people. Like, there's no, you know, no one manning the socials really. And this is a bit of an issue, because if there's people like me that are here willing to do the research, and not only willing to do the research but communicate about the project, it would be ideal to be able to communicate in a very high level way, or a very detailed way, where I can basically scrub out all the ambiguity. But I'm letting you know there's tons of ambiguity, and I did my best to give you the clarity as much as I can. Now I'm going to show you what I mean here. 50% supply reward pools. Okay, just keep this in mind. Okay, there's a few numbers that we gotta kind of, you know, mull through here for a second. Reward pools up to 50% in supply for reward pools, and you can see the initial amount was 125 million tokens, and then after July 2024, the governance has decided to bring it down to about 49.4 million, which means that it loses quite a bit, almost like 60% of the tokens that were allocated to this supply to the rewards pool has been reduced. Now, again, the reason why I am not sure, obviously, that we would have to see the proposals and the reasons and all of that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, it's beyond the point, because it's already been implemented, as you can see. So we know that this supply is now reduced significantly. So we're going to get less emissions in that regard and within this category. And you can see the distribution, and there's vesting and so on, slow and steady distribution, which is healthy and was what we want to see. So you can see reward pools tokens will be released weekly at a diminishing rate over the next 10 years. So we're talking about a schedule of 10 years long, according to the regression curve, representing 11% reducing per year. So we're going to see an emissions that slowly regresses over a longer period of time. And just keep in mind, we're talking about a project that's TGE's already been out for about 3 and a bit of years. So we're well into this project, and I would like to say that a lot of the tokens already are in distribution. However, we have to understand how the reward structure's kind of been changed, and then again, it leaves a little bit of uncertainty as to what's going to be happening as far as the rest of the emissions and what happens to the difference of the numbers. And I'm going to show you what I mean in a second. So 50, and this gets reduced. So let's just keep it at 50, but just understand that it reduces, this 50 gets reduced by 60%. And then the reserve, there's a bit of a reserve there. Of course, we want to have some runway for future use and so on. It assumed 5-year linear release starting in year 3 from TGE, and we're already there, guys. So we're already getting this distribution. However, like the other category, it also got reduced on July 2024. So governance vote reduced this to 7 million, and it was at 50, guys. So this thing came down significantly, right? So even if we take these numbers for face value, 50 and 20, right, that's only 70% at the current moment. And then the last category is 10%, which is community pool, okay, community incentives. Now, if you do the quick math, of course, this is 80% of the emissions of the tokens that are going to be entering circulation. My issue is, where's the other 20? Number one. And that's only considering the old numbers, not even considering the changes in governance, right? So even still, even if you did that math and you started to reduce the reality of the previous emission rate or the percentages, guys, where's all the rest of the tokens going as they're getting emitted? And I try to get at some clarity about this, what's happening here. And the reality is, a lot of the times I can only use history and my experience after doing over 90 deep dives over the last years, releasing one video like this every single week. And if you want to know more about that, I got links in the description. But ultimately, this level of ambiguity needs to be clarified here. You know, like, I'm not sure what's going on. And I do note that a lot of projects, sometimes when this exists, these tokens are, although they're in circulation, they're quote unquote stuck in a wallet reserved for the team, or maybe even in this case, maybe the DAO. I am not sure, to make some critical decisions, business decisions, when they need to be used and how they need to be used, whether it be marketing or exchange listings or this or that. They have a bit of flexibility within the allocation to make some quick decisions as to what needs to be spent in which various categories. But this introduces a level of centralization. Who makes those decisions with this remaining token supply? This is what kind of like results in a gray area with regards to tokenomics. Although they provide tons and tons of information, as can be seen, I'm left with a little bit of ambiguity about the numbers not adding up. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that clarity from anybody on their socials. Okay, so that's that, guys. Sometimes this is what research is all about. You want that clarity, you want that deep dive, you want to know everything about it, and sometimes you just got to accept that you're not going to get it and may not happen right away. I did wait for 3 days to try to see if I can get some questions answered, and nothing happened. So what we really need to do is understand is that maybe this is what we just have, and you got to make your decisions based on what you have. And that's unfortunate, because it could be such a great distribution, a great explanation about those numbers, but without it, we have to be reserved, we have to be cautious, we have to understand there's risk associated to ambiguity. And that means that when it's time to buy the dip or to accumulate, you have to have that mindset that maybe it's about reducing your position size based on the risk that you're taking. Just keep that in mind, guys. Again, Swarm looks good, its value proposition is awesome, but without that clarity, I expect a retail investor to think twice. So keep that in mind. You can see that the vesting schedule is pretty good. We're right around this level, and you can also see that some of the categories are already flatlining. The sales pool, rewards pool, they're almost to that point where we're flatlining right around here, and slowly the emissions is almost done. So the majority, is pretty good. We're pretty much into the vesting schedule, and we're going to be slow and steady. And just keep in mind the emissions are going to come down slowly over time. Okay, so this is good. If you want to know more about the emissions, you can see slow growth. And again, I think we're at about 145 weeks in or something like that. Somewhere in, I have more details for you about where we're at as far as TGE and in the current level of the cycle, but we're right around this level, 140-ish weeks or so. Okay, so it's matured, and a lot of the tokens are already in circulation, and they had a goal. Their goal was to get a certain amount of the tokens in circulation by year 3. And you can see the vesting schedule and distribution model has been designed with fairness at top priority. I can see that, guys. And with the goal of releasing about half of the maximum supply towards the end of the 3rd year. As I'm saying, guys, they're on target, so which is good. They have this view, and they're on target. Reward pools tokens are released over the course of 10 years at a rate of which mentioned each week, which is diminishes each week, which means that eventually the amount of emissions is going to come down, making it not necessarily deflationary, but over time you'll see that there's going to be less sell pressure, given that the amount of tokens entering the market are not going to be as high as they were in the past, which is good. Less tokens, less supply, more ideally more demand, and therefore price goes up. That usually has its effect. Okay, so just basic economics. Vesting dates, you can see some vesting dates, get into that, and then we jump right into governance. Looking at the governance, it's quite self-explanatory in the sense that you own SMT token and you get rewards, reward policies, Swarm common goods and services, and so on, key decisions about SMT, and so on and so forth. What you have to understand too is that this DAO, Swarm Markets DAO, has been set up and registered in Marshall Islands. Okay, SMT token reserves are governed by eligible members of the Swarm Markets DAO LLC, and you can see that's basically what had the Republic of Marshall Islands, and under the license number blah blah blah. So you got to make your decisions. Is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Do you care? I'm going to tell you this: a lot of DAOs are registered in places like this. Okay, so you gotta accept that or move on. That's the reality. Okay, so a little bit of details here with regards to the SMT wrapping the SMT, of course. And then we have, the wallets and all of that and how to get that set up and the release schedule of SMT as we get closer to the 100% supply. You can see at the beginning, in the beginning, we get very aggressive, and over time, you can see it diminishes significantly over time, over the next little while. So this is what they said, this is what they promised, and this is what you're going to get. Okay, a schedule of which it slowly gets emitted over time. Last updated 25 days ago, not bad. Okay, I've seen worse, guys. Documentation that doesn't get updated for months and months and months. I think that maybe a brush up might be good to just make sure that this gets updated so we can see maybe once a week to come and check or something, especially now, guys. I'll be honest. A lot of the teams don't realize that cyclical or looking at the way the markets are behaving might put them in a competitive edge, and usually it's where there's negativity in the market, where it's bearish out there, is where these numbers and everything needs to be on point, because real smart money right now is what they're doing is they're looking for accumulation opportunities, and if everything's on point, then what happens is you're a prime candidate for accumulation. So make sure that everything's up to date. Okay, 25 days is not bad, but a bit of an update should be okay. Let's keep on going. Now, core concepts, you got the passport, like I mentioned, and so on and so forth. But overall, we were able to get a good idea of what this project is about, okay? And it's interesting. Guys, stay tuned. Towards the end of the video, I will be giving you a summary of some of the details. And again, I'm going to be giving you that infographic that I release every single week. And I'm going to put it all over the socials so you can download it and check it out and do your thing with it. But ultimately, let's move it one step forward. Let's see what's going on with gold standard. I wanted to see what this is about. Let's see. Let's get this. See, this is investing public stocks on chain. You can see they have a lot of different ones. Cool stuff. Stocks on chain. Okay. I wanted to go and look at, let's see what other tab. Let's take a look at the team for a second. So the team is fully doxed. I love it. I like when I see fully doxed teams. I'm going to be honest. It doesn't have to be the case. Is Bitcoin fully doxed? Let's be real. This is a no KYC environment for a lot of people. And I respect that. I do. But we have to understand that, especially when you're getting into DeFi, and especially when you're getting into a project that's not completely governance and so on and so forth, which, there's a lot of decentralization here, which is great for swarm markets. But we also have to understand that knowing, especially with a young team, knowing who's behind the team, knowing who is part of the talent in the team will definitely make you bullish, right? So this is what I want to focus on. The team is decent. What I mean is size-wise, they got a small team-ish. It's okay. They got what it takes. They got all the major categories. Okay, they got the CEO. We'll talk about him in a second. We have entrepreneur, angel investor, media, fintech, real estate. Okay, head of product of Swarm Markets. Okay, and then we have chief business and development officer, co-founder of Swarm, interesting individual. Another co-founder. We'll talk about these guys in a second. A manager, a director, and enthusiast of Web3. I'm glad to see this. A lot of companies, a lot of projects do not find the value in having a Web3 enthusiast, whether they be a dev themselves or someone that is well in tune with what is happening within the space, because being in tune with the trends and the sentiment and anything that allows you to deploy a project in a proper way for the environment that you're in. Okay, it's not good enough to just know your traditional markets and then say, I'm gonna slap a token on this and this and that. Guys, they got a full tech engineering. This is what I want to see. A young team with tons of talent, front-end developer, back-end Go developer. I haven't really seen such a smallish project. As you can see, there's not a lot of team members here with so much tech talent and such young, smart tech talent. For me, that's ideal. That's what I want to see. Now, they may not be brand name individuals, let's put it that way, within the space, but it doesn't matter. This is how it begins. You speculate. And of course, if you know its market cap, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We're speculating on a very, very good team that may not have, brand recognition, right? That doesn't matter. We're in speculation mode. For example, co-founder of Swarm, Mr. Piper looks interesting. If we kind of scroll down, you got some of his accomplishments and his about. You can read that, his posts and so on. He's the co-founder of Swarm, and what I found more interesting is that he, again, more Swarm Network, co-founder of Loop Media, and then he's a mentor at Singularity University and so on. So what I found interesting is that a lot of these projects, a lot of these individuals come from various parts of the space, and you can see he's a business individual. I take this individual as being well versed within the business field, and obviously that is very important. Particularly that this is could be a business to business solution. Also, of course, we're talking about stocks and bonds and all of this stocks and commodities and so on, and integrating institutions within their product offering. Obviously, this is great. So, co-founder. Now, what's interesting to me is, he's present at Loop Media. Does that mean that he's currently there at Loop Media, being fully employed there, or I'm just not sure where his focus is, if it's completely on Swarm or not. He's presently employed here, presently employed here, presently employed here. He's presently employed in a lot of places, and he has 13 various experiences, which is great. But then we start to look at various different obligations that he has currently at the moment. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on. But and then we have this dude individual right here, Timo is University Technology, I see there, and we see investor board member here with a board capital markets, early investor. I see Invest San Francisco Bay Area, managing director at finance. I see a lot of finance, and then I see computer science and data communication. So I have a feeling this individual is able to bridge over the tech and the financial aspect of things, and knowing these two industries is great. It's a great asset. So not bad. I appreciate this. Is great. Okay, and just keep on going down. We have some connections that he's got and so on. University of this and that. Okay, pretty good. Okay, I like that's fine. And then we have the CEO. The CEO, doesn't have much of a description, unfortunately, but you can see presently Chief Officer, Capital, full time. Okay, present. For a year and a bit, and then you had Advisor Board, another present for a year and a bit, and then Swarms Market, and then it seems like a busy individual. I'm noticing that a lot of these individuals are busy. Let's see what happened here. They're all over the place, presently present, an investor at PEX. And this is the thing, present, investor, and board member. Okay, a board member is not a full-time job, but still, where are we at with things? And I see a lot of talent, but still, and I know it's a small project at the current moment, but I like the team. I definitely do. I'm wondering where their focus is at. That's all. Just a very general statement. All right, let's take a look at some of their socials. Let's begin by looking at their quickly at what they got here. This is okay. They're not socials. This is their partnerships. Okay, partnerships are interesting because they classify a lot of these as partners. And where I would say Chainlink is not a partner, Polygon is not a partner, MoonPay is not a partner, and so on and so forth. There's some of these that we got to understand they're not partnerships per se. Just because you use the Polygon's tech stack, it's not a partnership. And that's something that I'm very clear about. It's just literally it's a relationship. It's a good choice of tech stack, but it's not a Polygon didn't say, we let's shake on it and we're going to get involved with Swarm. It's not the case. This is an open public protocol that anybody can use and deploy projects and use their tech stack. So it's not a real strategic partnership. Now, Copper is the award-winning new standard in digital asset security, and thus the ultimate protection for a trading platform and institutions. Okay, this is good. Okay, it's the best custodian out there. Maybe a bit of a partnership, maybe a bit of an arrangement. Okay, maybe a little bit better instead of a general blockchain solution. Okay, and then you got is a market leading provider of identification verification services. So because they're KYC and KYB technology in order to meet their highest compliance and security, so they use these services, which could be a little bit of a relationship right there. Okay, awesome, good stuff. And this right here, Gnosis, have been building market mechanisms for decentralized finance since 2017, creating, trading, and holding digital assets in Ethereum faster, and so on and so forth. So pretty good stuff because they're in this in the markets of finance and creating and trading and all of this kind of stuff. I think this is a good one as well. This is what I'm talking about, guys. We got to be really critical about the relationships that they include within their yeah, within their strengths. But at the end of the day, this is a good choice. Having an L2 and not completely on Ethereum is a good choice. Polygon, whether it be Polygon or Optimism tech stack or whatever, that's a different story. But at least they chose an L2 and they chose the Ethereum network to tap into the liquidity and all that good stuff. So good choice right there. What else do we got here? We got their X. They got 26,000 followers, okay, which is pretty good. They're followed by some people, some good influencers and all of that. This is a great relationship that they got. Swarm partners with Allo to bring tokenized private and public markets to institutional investors, which is good. I have this noted as definitely. You can see that this is a small project with lots of collaborations. Let's put them it that way. Lots of relationships, which I appreciate. I do appreciate that. Market recap, so they get into a little bit of the market. Of course, attracting some of those eyes and attention of people that are looking to trade markets, and that's actually a good marketing perspective from that aspect. Again, a little bit about Allo and this partnership and so on and so forth. But I want you to quickly look at the amount of likes and engagement that they get. Unfortunately, it's not that much given their size. Like some of their posts barely get any attention, unfortunately. So something needs to give here, guys. Something needs to happen in order to get this a little bit more creative. It could be that the fact that their visual appeal, like they get a little bit more when they have visually appealing posts, which is great. And information that is, look at the real world asset value. This is a cool one. You know what, this is nice, but this is a chain link pre repost, so that's something that is good, but it should be their own posts that have that type of value, as you can see. So it's not bad. Just keep in mind, some of their marketing, I think, needs a little bit of effort here on X. So let's see what's going on with this. Their Medium, they have a Medium page, which is great. It's just typical nowadays. And what's also typical is that some projects don't keep up with it. They open up the Medium page, they make a few posts, blog posts or whatever, and then they don't touch it for months. Well, I would like to say that Swarm at least, is keeping up with it to a certain degree. Their last post was March 20th, which is a few days ago. As long as they come in once a week and post something and keep it active, that's not bad, and I'll accept that. And so far, they've been following through. The worst thing to do is sign up for something and not follow through. It's a sign that the team is not taking it seriously or active or whatever the case may be. And in this case, Swarms does the right thing of keeping up with this page. At least they got action here. So feel free to read some of their publications. They got some good stuff. Recaps for February. Maybe we're going to get a recap for March very soon. It is the end of the month, so maybe we should get something happening there very soon. And they talk about various topics within the project and within the real world asset space in general. Good stuff, good learning, good reading material. Go check it out. And then what we have is the roadmap. The roadmap, unfortunately, it lacks a little bit of direction or precision. Let's put it that way. And I understand the issue of being overly precise on a roadmap. I understand this. In the engineering space, it's very difficult to say, I'm going to be done on this day, and then obviously miss the deadline, which happens all the time in the engineering space. And then all of a sudden, do you have some really disgruntled individuals? I get it. However, guys, a little bit of accountability would go a long way, especially if you want people to know exactly where you're going with things. Now, I do want to say that at least they have, the 2023, 2024, which is outdated, and you can kind of see that they've hit their milestones and they're doing their thing, which is great. And then they have their expanded the Hive, which is 2025, which is great, awesome. But I think it's time to update this a little bit further and maybe get into a quarterly accountability and to tell us exactly what's happening within the 2025 range, not just a whole year type. And if you read these are very, very vague and very general. Community votes will determine new blockchain networks to deploy. You get what I mean? Like, it's very general. Like, what do you mean? Like, exactly what are we fighting towards? Why should I be bullish in 2025 on SMT? And this is your opportunity. And provide links, and then those links maybe should link to a blog post that gets into more details and provides data and stats and different things to get us bullish on where SMT is going in 2025. 2025, particularly that we are currently in this market looking for buy the dip opportunities. This is their opportunity to say 2025 is going to be hot for SMT, and this is what we're doing, and this is why we're going to be showing a lot of strength. So this is an opportunity, and you can see as a roadmap, they provide a lot of documentation, a lot of speaking about different things. However, unfortunately, a little bit more detail, guys, with regards to where they're going with things would be great. Okay, so good. I appreciate that they have this here. So overall, guys, not bad of a scenario. Not bad of a scenario. I appreciate what they got going on. And as per usual, a quick summary about what SMT is all about. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's see what's going on here. It is in general, it is like a DEX. It's DeFi, guys. It's real world assets. It has a DAO. It's EVM compatible. It provides a bridge between traditional markets and obviously the crypto markets, and that the two technologies basically merging together, and they provide that DOTC, decentralized over-the-counter protocol, that is quite interesting, you know, and all the good stuff that you expect from DeFi, but integrating traditional markets. And the traditional markets, the real-world assets that we're used to, gets easily integrated in a project like this. So their ecosystem, again, DOTC, decentralized over-the-counter, which we talked about. It's a peer-to-peer trading protocol, privacy, security, compliance, and flexible. This is what it's about. Now, its ecosystem in itself is what it is. You've seen what it is. It's a SMT is, as I explained, it's a marketplace, and to buy and sell stocks and commodities and cryptos and all of that kind of stuff. But on top of that, it adds a feature, which is this right here. I would say that out of all the other features that it could provide, this is a good one, guys. So I give it 8 out of 10. I kind of appreciate what they're trying to do by attracting, you know, big institutional buyers, institutional players into the space, and definitely providing that wing of their SKU or their product offerings, which is good. A utility, rewards, liquidity provider, real world asset holders, real world asset stakers, they will be getting rewards. And another reward for being a token holder is to be part of governance in the DAO. Okay, so I appreciate that. It's almost at a 10 out of 10. There's a couple of things that I wish maybe they could have integrated, but still 9 out of 10 there. The roadmap is good. Now I know I said maybe they should have provided more detail, but you know what? That would have given it a 10 out of 10. It's given everything, and to be honest, the emphasis on 2024 and 2023 should be reduced, because it makes it seem more outdated than it really is. Okay, focus more on the 2025, and let's get into some details, and it would be perfect. Team is spot on, although it is small. You can see the team is small, and the team, you know, is talented. They got all the little details that they need in order to, all the talents that they need to make this thing succeed. There are some concerns about focus. You know, they're basically full-time in other aspects within the industry, and it kind of tells me, like, are they being spread too thin? But when the project is small, the question is, how much effort should they be putting? They should be all hands on deck, or is it small enough that they can keep occupied in other places as well? It's all about where they're putting their human capital in the next little while. So I say the team has the complete capabilities. They have lots of experience in business development, computer science, and data communication, and more importantly, the capital markets, which brings them full circle, because they also have a full team of developers, both front end and back end, and Web3 enthusiasts that are ready to go to make this thing happen. So the team right now, for me, is really, really healthy. The socials, on the other hand, have a little bit of work to do, in my opinion. Although they have 25,000 X followers, that's great. For a small project, that's awesome. The reality is they're not getting much engagement on their posts, and their posts are somewhat frequent, but they should get a little bit more engagement there. Okay, so, and they don't have a Discord, which we know, and based on my experience, again, 90 deep dives, guys, just keep in mind, more than 90 deep dives, all videos that are linked in the description below with that playlist. You can go check them all out. I have collected enough data, across the markets to suggest that a Discord is necessary. It's very healthy. In fact, Telegram is too noisy. The quality of the communication is diminished significantly because of all the noise and the distraction, and the feed always constantly moving. It's hard to do research. It's hard to organize conversations, and even still, that they do have a Telegram show with very little activity, guys. There's no team representation. I wasn't able to get any answers for any of my questions. happens, and it's just very unfortunate. So I think that has a little bit of work, and the Medium page is used to post updates, and it's done a good job. There are posts, they're keeping up with it. It looks like they're posting monthly type of thing, or maybe a little bit more frequently than that, but at least it's not a stagnant account that's not doing anything. However, guys, without proper engagement with community building, it's going to be very hard. Right, the 25x followers they're not engaging enough with their posts, and without a community, Telegram is dead. Nothing's really happening there, and Discord there is none. So how are they building community? And this is the biggest issue. And then when an individual like me joins their Telegram to ask questions, they should be all over it, right? Because that way I can communicate for them. And if they're not communicating, and I'm not communicating effectively because I'm not getting my questions answered, marketing it definitely doesn't do well. Okay, so this is where they need to keep up with their socials. They need somebody there paying attention, and they need to invest a little bit into that. And that's, again, coming from a social media perspective myself. I can say that needs a little bit of work. Tokenomics, 5 out of 10 there, and it's all not purely the rating is purely based on ambiguity. It could be perfect. It could be 10 out of 10, but I wouldn't know. And I wouldn't be able to find out because I don't know who to ask. And I tried my best to ask and no one's answering. So how else do we find out information if I'm going to take it for face value, especially that I'm coming from a retail investor perspective? And if you know the average retailer investor, you have to understand that they don't know a lot of what we're talking about here. This is all a learning experience from the majority of the retail investors that are coming into this space with fresh capital. And if you want them to get involved, and you want them to understand, you got to provide it so clearly, all this information, particularly tokenomics, because that's where we're trained to look for gaps in the financial structure of the token itself, right? And we're talking about a token. We're talking about SMT. What is SMT good for? Why should I buy it? We're not talking about the actual project itself, Swarm Markets. The reality is SMT, the token. And when we're talking about it, guys, if there's ambiguity of the token with regards to supply and demand, and trust me, traditional markets has educated people with regards to inflation and printing of currencies and all of this kind of stuff. So we kind of want that clarity, guys. So something needs to happen there, either an update or something, or separate, because I noticed that the DAO has updated some of the tokenomics. Maybe what needs to happen is needs to have two separate parts of the white paper or the documentation, one past and one present, and provide the details on the current, because the current is what's most important, and those numbers seem to be outdated because of the changes that were imposed by the DAO. So again, lots of ambiguity. The vesting schedule will release half of the max supply by the end of the year 3, which we're already there, guys, well into year 3, which is great. So I'm going to give it 50-50 here because I'm in the gray zone with regard to some of the tokenomics. Guys, let me know in the comment section below if there's something that I'm missing here. Feel free to contribute, join the Discord, guys. There's a community there willing to kind of figure all of this out. Relationships, I think it's 10 out of 10 here, guys. Lots of happening here for such a small project. Allo, tokenizing private markets, Gnosis, platform experiences, Copper, security, some sub, KYC services, 10 out of 10. Good stuff there, good relationships. I'm not talking about others like Chainlink and Polygon. Those are not relationships. These are good relationships that you might want to get bullish on. And then exchanges, guys, just keep in mind, just because I'm saying 2 out of 10, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. The reality is it's an opportunity, right? Like if you get it listed on other exchanges, you know what happens, guys, right? We get volume, we get more market participation, we get more tokens out there, and it's great for the price ultimately, and then we see volatility if there's futures and all that kind of stuff. So you might say, okay, maybe this is a bad thing as well, because if I want to sell, if I'm holding and I want to sell, is there enough liquidity for me to take profits when this thing runs to the moon, right? This is something you have to consider, and something that I've experienced and many others have experienced when getting into projects that don't have a lot of liquidity out there. So it's also a negative and a positive. I would say, given where we are here in this market, it could be a severe positive, given the fact that All we need is a couple of other exchanges on other listings on other exchanges. We could see the market rise significantly, and if we continue the bull run, guys, it's like a positive, which could make swarm markets do very, very well. So I'm bullish. Ultimately, trading volume is super low, guys, super low. No market participation. Now I'm going to say that it's not exclusive to SMT. Excuse me, guys, but ultimately there are other projects that are getting decent amount of volume given the current conditions. Guys, this is getting less than 1%. For me, a going rate, I would like to see at least 10%, 5 to 10%, like right around there would be okay, ideally, to see some action, right? And there's not much. Approximately 51% of the tokens are of the supplies in circulation. Just keep in mind that we have a total supply and a max supply. The total supply is at 158, and the max is at about 150. Which means that, you know, I'm assuming through governance and through rewards, this will definitely be emitted over time. But currently, out of the total, only 51% is in circulation, which is fine. And as of the deep dive, you know, price is still fluctuating because of the conditions out there in the market. Okay, so price and market cap, guys. Market cap is small. Market cap is tiny. Let's put it that way. Let's see what the market cap is here. Right now, the market cap is at $6.4 million, which is tiny. Okay, so since the recording of the video, things did fluctuate, but we'll take it as it is. Let's go back to this. Let's keep in mind that there's a verdict that I have here, a little bit of a summary of what I think ultimately we should consider. We should consider the fact that, you know, it is a very new interesting idea to tokenize real world assets, and not just real world assets like houses and cars and so on, which is what we usually think of. It's also stocks and commodities that are out there in the regular world, right? And we've seen things like this, a play on real world assets, right? Subcategories of real world assets, which is cool. I appreciate. So that's that. TGE was July 7th in 2021, so we're about 193 weeks in. So I thought it was 140 something, but it's 190 something weeks in. So it's about 3.7 years into the vesting, which is ideal because they want the majority of their tokens to be in circulation, which I think they have achieved successfully so far. 50% rewards reduced by 60, 20% reserved for the reserved reduced by 86%, 10% community pool untouched, which leaves us to a number. If you start looking and doing the math, 67.44% is left in an unallocated state, which I am not sure where they go and how they are being controlled. Who is in control of this? This is my biggest concern. Okay, and it's not about it being you know, being totally worried. It's about ambiguity. I am not totally aware of where this is, what's happening here. And even though I read the white papers, I consider myself, you know, well read and well spoken, to the point that I should be able to understand, like a retail investor should, when I go and read such documents. So there's something wrong here. I am uncertain and unclear about where the rest of the tokens go based on the numbers not adding up. Even without the reduction, 50, 20, 10, that's only 80. Where's the rest of the rest of the 20 go? And then considering the reduction, guys, there's a lot more that are unallocated. So I'm a bit, you know, left out there in the gray. X could use more engagements. Marketing needs work, as I mentioned, guys. And now let's talk about what I think. Now, if we compare SMT with the market cap of poly markets, you know, and you have to understand that this is a very speculative, a new type of idea, which I think eventually is going to become big. This is probably going to be the biggest concept ever, tokenizing everything. Okay, let's be real about that. It's not just cars and houses like I just mentioned. It's tokenizing everything. Now, if this is the beginning of tokenizing everything, Mike, the question that I have here is SMT going to be the leader of this, one of the first movers out there in the space? Now, there is a project out there called ticker is Poly that is a little bit ahead as far as market cap, which if you think about it and know what market cap is, it was able to attract a little bit more capital in comparison to SMT. They've been around maybe a little longer, which I'm not sure because I haven't done a deep dive on Poly, but SMT's been around for a few years now. So I'm comparing it with the market cap of Poly because they have a slightly larger market cap. If SMT could catch up to Poly, I can see SMT making a 4 or 5x, 4.27x just to catch up. Now we have to understand here Like I mentioned, we are talking about a small market cap. We are talking about a speculative new asset class, right? As even considering a subclass of the real world asset narrative. And if you're coming in from a pure speculative perspective, you're going to say to yourself, but this is not enough. The reality is that if the markets do well and catch on with this new trend and this new speculation, a forex is going to be nothing. The reality is this can do a 20, 30, 40x, not a problem. Now, will it happen this cycle, given the way we are in these conditions? Well, would it be next cycle? It could be possible, but the reality is if your speculation and your conviction is that we are going to be tokenizing real world assets such as stocks and commodities, guys, this is a project that could do very, very well in the future. However, what's our benchmark? Our benchmark is competition. Our benchmark is the total market cap to see how much capital is in this space. And we've seen the total market cap fall a little bit in the last little while, down to about $2.6 trillion from the highs of 3.2 trillion or so. And this is the reality. We're seeing capital leaving the crypto space in this miniature bear market that we have here in the last little while. However, guys, if we start continuing to the upside after this dip and we go up for a higher high with regards to total market cap, the question is how much capital can swarm markets attract, and could it outpace poly markets as far as its ability to attract capital? Okay, this is important to understand. Now, a base case scenario, it catches up to poly. Okay. At best case scenario, it surpasses poly. Okay. At best case, even better case scenario is that the total market cap goes to about $6 trillion, and ultimately SMT can get a fat portion of that capital. And as a small market cap, it could do a lot more X's, given the ability to rise up and duplicate itself based on such a small amount of capital that is required. Okay, so this is something that we have to understand. So I'm going to throw it out there. I'm going to throw it out there to say this. A psychological level is to see SMT at $1. If it can hit $1, guys, SMT did very well. I'm not saying that it can't do more. I'm not saying that it's going to do less. I'm just saying, like, if it catches up to poly, an easy 4-5x. And if the market does super well in general, again, $6 trillion market cap, I can see SMT at $1, maybe even more. But again, we're taking risk. The risk you have to understand the categories of risk that we're getting into and the categories of speculation that we're getting into. And overall, based on all the factors, I say SMT is a decent 8 out of 10, given that, a lot of its categories are spot on and there are some things that need to be fixed that can be fixed easily. And of course, a healthy market, a strong market, a market of which we see trending price action will definitely bring some more enthusiasm into the crypto space, including the project SMT swarm markets. Okay, so just keep in mind, a lot of what I'm saying here has to do with current market conditions. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts as well, so let's begin. Let's see what's going on here with the swarm markets SMT chart. What's going on with the price? So you can see clearly it is in a downtrend, but it's not exclusive to swarm markets. It's the entire space. Like I mentioned, it's even the total. Although right now we see SMT for the day up 6.7%, the reality is that 6% doesn't mean anything. If you look at the daily time frame, you can see we're still in a downtrend, guys. A bit of an issue, right? A bit of an issue because we're not seeing confirmations of a reversal. So when do you buy? Now, the reality is if you, after watching this video, you feel confident, you feel a little bit of FOMO, you like the idea, the value proposition, the team, the this, the that, I would say this: satisfy the FOMO, buy a little bit. You don't have to go all in right now. The amount of risk you take is directly correlated to the position size that you buy or you accumulate to. And if it seems risky to you, but you still like it, then weigh out the size based on that measurement. Buy some, buy a little bit. Look at the sell pressure in the volume on this dip. Crazy amount of volume on this dip. And the fact is that we broke critical levels, which is the previous bottoms, to confirm a break of structure. Another lower low after a massive downtrend. Guys, this is not a good look. Now, the only way to change the perspective of this chart to assume that people now are getting back into accumulation is to see the price break back above horizontal resistance, right, which would be here, back above, back test this previous support as support once again, and start breaking the previous high again and start changing directions. This would be classified as a change of character. Now, this could happen, and this is where I would get super bullish. And I mention this all the time. You know, these failure patterns happen all the time. We break back in, you can buy in. We break back down, support, again, back testing the support line, you buy in. You break the previous high, you buy in some more. And then your average entry is right around here. Guys, you start measuring. Then you start measuring. You start saying, okay, let's quickly do Fibonacci. And we're doing a big picture analysis based on spot. You know, based on spot, this should be accumulated based on spot. Its market cap is so small. I don't know if there's even futures available on swarm markets at the current moment. But it's not the point. Let's say this was the bottom, hypothetically, and we start to accumulate at this level. And we start saying, okay, the golden pocket's right here, very confluent with this top, and we start measuring. We start saying, okay, if I buy right now, my average entry is at about 20 cents, and I'm getting out or looking at a golden pocket retracement down up to about 88 cents, you're looking at a 300% move. Okay, and you're being very modest, because you're not even talking about previous highs in price discovery. We're assuming that that's what eventually we're going to get there, and that's what I mentioned earlier. If the total market cap hits $6 trillion, there's no doubt in my mind that I could see swarm markets right back to the 1.27 1.618 extension. Remember, my overall target, my not target, but my projection was at $1, and $1 is literally very modest because we were higher before. So you can see that it's all about understanding is where we go with things. Where we go with things with price. Price, literally, do we get back to previous highs? Very possible. We go back there. There's a lot of trapped liquidity. Remember, when you see these falling wedges, when you see this downwards, you start to look at where's the ultimate target, the base of the wedge. Now, of course, this wedge broke up and then got another lower low. That's horrible, guys. We need to break above here. Let me just emphasize the importance of this horizontal resistance, the bigger resistance, big picture, because without breaking above that, we're in trouble, guys. I'll be honest. We need to break above, and I feel like eventually that's going to be the case. So what we need to do is prepare for that. We need to prepare that eventually we're going to break back above, back test, and start springing. In the meantime, if we get here, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do if we go up to this level? Again, percentage wise, we're talking about a good 300%, a good 3x your money, and then at that point you could start debating on whether what you're going to do, right? Because market cap ultimately needs to catch up. We need to start seeing the market cap run and the total space, like I mentioned. So this is a reduced amount of risk because you're waiting for confirmations of a trend reversal. It starts to look like a change of character. The reality is the majority of the change of character, the important part is right here. Okay, we need to break above this high. Without the break above this high, right here, we're in trouble. Okay, this is what we need to break above. And usually what happens is it begins with this. Then we start moving up. We come up here. Maybe we get a bit of a rejection. Then we come back up and we start doing one of these little by little. And we start getting those peaks and valleys. But we need to be patient because ultimately the trend right now is still to the downside. Let's quickly erase some of this artwork. You can see that we are still making lower lows and lower highs. So without a proper change of character, we assume that we could get resistance here, get rejected, and come down for a lower low. So if you're getting into any fresh longs, even on spot or accumulation, understand your invalidation. Your invalidation should be right here without much structure. It is a double bottom. Let's quickly go on the 4 hour, and then we'll take a look at oscillators to see if we can get any edge. Because I honestly, from a price perspective, this is all you got. You know, if you're buying right now, you put your stop loss into here, expect a reversal. Once you get to this level, I understand that it could be resistance unless we break back above. If it is resistance, then you want to make sure you protect your gains and do your thing as a trader, because if we get reversal and come back down, guys, you're going to do a full round trip back down to previous lows and maybe even a lower low and turn a positive trade into a negative trade. And this is the problem here, guys. So this is pretty good. Let's see if we get any divergence here. You can see that the momentum is slowly going to the upside, and it reached the level where it got overbought, not once, but also twice without ever getting really fully oversold. It's a bit good. Like, it did pretty good here on the 4 hour. Now the question is it good enough? In the meantime, are we due for a proper bearish response? Because we went overbought without getting fully oversold for a good while. So is it time maybe we get oversold for one last confirmation low, and then we can buy in and maybe sweep at the lows, maybe some swing failure, maybe a little bit of a stop hunt right here, and then we get going? Or should we be prepared for the continuation up right now? now. Guys, this is a choice that you're going to have to make, and it's all about the risk tolerance that you have. You can buy some right here, you can buy some down here at the support line, you can buy some down here at the swing failure if it does come down. But ultimately, your invalidation to start getting protective and defensive of your profits or any gains that you may be in is right around here, because this is break even. Breaking below 0.054 means that you're going to start getting into the negatives in a bad way, and then we don't know if Bitcoin ultimately is still in a downtrend in itself. And if it is, we're going to see more negativity on the altcoins. We're going to see a lot of these plays come down a little bit further for opportunities to accumulate, even though right now we're seeing some of the altcoins today looking pretty green with a few few percents to the upside, which is fine. But again, zoom out once in a while, guys, because it will kind of show you, like, imagine all the individuals that got bullish on this pump. How do they feel if they didn't take profit? Right now, they're feeling the pain, because right now we're making a lower low and still in that lower low scenario. All right, guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.